One book at a time. Today's selection is Meditations.
Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor, ruled over one of history's largest and most turbulent empires. His age is often called Rome's Golden Era, yet it was shadowed by plague, disaster, and the constant threat of civil war. And still, in the very heart of power, war, and political intrigue, he discovered what many of us in the modern world are desperately trying to find inner peace. He distilled that way of living into a truth so simple it has endured for centuries. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." It sounds straightforward, but pause and let it sink in. We live in a time where noise never ends. News that storms in without warning, social media that never sleeps, work pressure that follows us home, and expectations that pull from every direction. In that chaos, this sentence feels like a lighthouse. Have you ever felt helpless in the face of what is happening around you, even when, on the surface, everything seems fine? We shrug and say, "That is life. Everyone feels this way." Marcus Aurelius offers a different path. You may not be able to quiet the storm outside, but you can steady what happens within. You cannot command the waves, but you can learn to steer. And with practice, you can find stillness even while the winds rage. That leads to the question that matters most. How could a man carrying an empire on his shoulders find the calm we keep reaching for? The answer lives in Meditations. Not a dry philosophy textbook, but the private notebook of a man training his own soul. A place where he confronts fear, corrects himself, and rebuilds his courage one day at a time. Reading it feels like standing beside him in the quiet of night, hearing the thoughts he never meant to perform for anyone. In this video, we will walk through the remedies he gave himself. We will uncover how he stayed clear-minded amid pressure and conflict, and how you can apply these ancient lessons to the life you are living now. Not to escape your problems, but to meet them with steadier hands. If you have ever wished for a firm place inside yourself, something that does not collapse when life shifts, then this is for you. Let us open these pages together and rediscover the real strength of the human mind. The kind of strength Marcus Aurelius believed can turn any circumstance into a chance to grow and return to peace. Chapter 1. Dawn of Duty. There is a struggle. I believe nearly all of us know well how to move past procrastination and discover real meaning in the work of ordinary days. Have you felt it? The alarm goes off, and instead of rising with clarity, you want to stay wrapped in warmth for one more minute, as if you could delay the weight of the day. The mind negotiates, the body pleads. And somewhere in between desire and responsibility, you feel that quiet inner tug of procrastination. What is startling is that a Roman emperor faced the same battle nearly 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius, a ruler carrying an empire on his shoulders, wrote this private reminder to himself. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. Why am I complaining if I am going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do? Or was I made for this, to lie under the blankets and stay warm? But this is more pleasant. Were you born to feel pleasure rather than to do things? Do you not see the plants, the birds, the ants, the spiders, the bees, each doing their own work, putting the world in order as much as they can? And you are not willing to do your part as a human being. You do not hurry to do what your nature demands. It sounds familiar because it is human. Even the most powerful man of his age had mornings when comfort argued louder than purpose. But Marcus was not simply telling himself to work. He was reminding himself who he was. We are born to contribute, not to drift. His idea is simple and piercing. Every living thing has a function. A tree reaches and bears fruit. A bird flies and sings. A bee builds and gathers. And we too have a role in this larger order. We are capable of reason, of creativity, of cooperation, so when we surrender to laziness, we do not only waste time, we step away from our own nature. And the work he speaks of is not reserved for heroes or emperors. It can be the desk job, the craft bench, the caregiving hands, the student with tired eyes. Each small action done with intention becomes part of something larger than the self. A thread in the fabric of society, a quiet offering to the world. So the lesson is not to grit your teeth and endure your day. It is to honor your place within it. To stop treating work as punishment and begin seeing it as a chance to practice your best self, to create value, to serve, to improve, to grow. When you do that, procrastination loses its power because your effort finally has a home inside meaning. Work is not only sweat, it is connection. It is gratitude made visible. It is character built in real time. It is the way we shape a better world, not in grand speeches, but in steady choices. So the next time the alarm rings, do not just ask, "What do I have to do?" What am I here to give today? What can I do that matches the person I want to become, even in the smallest way? Begin the day, not only with movement, but with purpose. Wake up your body, yes, but also wake up your reason. That is the dawn of duty. Marcus Aurelius wanted to hand to each of us. Chapter 2, The Inner Citadel. This is not a poetic metaphor meant to sound elegant. It is a practical blueprint for building mental strength so that you are no longer shaken by external circumstances. Our goal today is simple and precise: to understand how to build a resilient and invulnerable inner life capable of withstanding every storm that comes our way. Have you ever felt like a small boat drifting in a violent sea? Waves of criticism, failure, and unexpected events crashing in from every direction, leaving you feeling fragile and easily overwhelmed. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who carried the burden of an entire empire, knew this feeling well. He lived through war, disease, and political intrigue. Yet instead of allowing himself to be swept away by chaos, he discovered a place of refuge that no external force could touch: his own mind. He called it the Inner Citadel. Imagine your mind as a strong and well-built structure. Thick walls, deep foundations, and a carefully guarded gate. Inside this fortress live your reason, your free will, and your true nature. All of it remains under your control. Nothing from the outside can enter unless you allow it. No matter how loud, chaotic, or unpredictable the world becomes, there is always a place of calm and clarity within you. This is not an escape from reality. It is an understanding of where your true power lies, not in controlling what happens around you, but in controlling how you respond. Think of it this way: you are the sole owner of your inner home. You decide what enters and what stays. One of the most important truths Marcus Aurelius teaches us is this: events do not harm us. Only our judgments about them do. He wrote, "It is not the event itself that disturbs you, but the judgment you make about it." Pause for a moment and let that settle. You are stuck in traffic. That is the event. The anger, frustration, and impatience do not come from the traffic itself. They come from the story you tell yourself. I will be late. This is a waste of time. Why does this always happen to me? A colleague speaks harshly. The event is simply words. The pain arises from interpretation. He disrespects me. I am not valued. I am not good enough. You spill a cup of coffee. The coffee does not injure you. But the thought that the day is ruined creates irritation and stress. Again, the suffering comes from judgment, not the event. We often believe that our emotions are caused directly by what happens to us. Stoic philosophy teaches the opposite. Between an event and your reaction, there is a space, and within that space, you have a choice. That choice is the doorway to freedom. No one can disturb you without your permission. No one can make you angry, anxious, or afraid unless you allow those judgments to take root in your mind. This does not mean becoming cold or emotionally numb. It means becoming aware of where suffering truly begins, not in the outer world, but within. So how do we practice this? How do we protect and strengthen the inner citadel? Marcus Aurelius offers a simple yet powerful technique. Retreat inward to find stillness. This does not mean running away from life or ignoring problems. It is a conscious shift of attention away from external noise and back to the quiet center of the mind. When a storm arrives, you do not stand exposed beneath it. You seek shelter. Your mind can be that shelter. When you feel overwhelmed by bad news criticism or tension, pause for a moment. Stop what you are doing. Take a slow, deep breath and feel the air entering and leaving your body. This anchors you in the present moment. Turn your attention inward and ask yourself, what is actually happening inside me right now? Observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. Notice anger, fear, or resentment as passing states, not commands. Do not cling to them. Do not let them carry you away. Then, reconnect with reason. In that quiet moment, clarity returns. You recognize that the event remains the same, but your response is entirely within your control. You do not need a special room or long hours of meditation. Sometimes a few seconds of stillness and a few conscious breaths are enough to restore balance. This practice changes how you move through busy days. Instead of being pulled endlessly by demands and pressure, you learn to step inward briefly to remind yourself that external forces do not define your worth. You return calmer, more focused, and grounded. This is a skill built through repetition, like strengthening a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger your inner citadel becomes, and the less the outer world can shake you. The inner citadel is not an abstract idea. It is a practical way of living that Marcus Aurelius used to face the greatest challenges of his life. Remember these three core principles. First, your mind is an unbreakable fortress. You are the only one who holds the key. Second, events do not harm you. Only your judgments cause suffering. Learn to control how you interpret the world. Third, retreat inward to find stillness. This is the method that restores calm and reason. True strength is not found in controlling the world outside. It is found in mastering the world within. Begin today by setting aside a few quiet moments to return to your own inner citadel. In the next chapter, we will explore another central Stoic idea: love of fate, Amor Fati, the art of turning every obstacle into an opportunity. Chapter 3: The Art of Human Relations. In this chapter, we move into a subject that I believe every one of us encounters, not occasionally, but almost every single day. The art of human relations, and more specifically, how to remain calm and even compassionate toward difficult people. It may sound counterintuitive at first, loving difficult people. But trust me, this is one of the most practical and liberating teachings Marcus Aurelius offers us. Let us begin with a simple and honest reality that Marcus himself acknowledged. Even a Roman emperor holding supreme power, someone who could command obedience from others, was not exempt from this experience. He wrote, "Begin the morning by telling yourself, 'Today, I shall meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful, envious, and unsocial.' All of these things happen to them because they do not know what is good and what is evil." At first glance, this may sound pessimistic, but in truth, it is deeply empowering. This is not negativity, it is preparation. By acknowledging this reality, we are less likely to be shocked or emotionally ambushed when we encounter unpleasant behavior. Does this sound familiar? Perhaps it is the neighbor who complains about everything, the colleague who stirs conflict, the friend who talks endlessly about themselves without noticing your feelings, or the constant stream of negative, selfish comments online. Instead of letting these encounters drain your energy, remember Marcus' words. Here it is just as expected. This simple recognition creates a psychological boundary, a layer of inner protection. So how do we face such people without allowing anger to consume us? This is where the Stoic perspective reveals its depth. Marcus Aurelius does not ask us to tolerate injustice passively or excuse harmful behavior. He invites us to understand it more clearly. He reminds us that they act this way not because they consciously choose evil, but because they cannot distinguish between what is truly good and what is harmful. Reflect on this carefully. When someone behaves selfishly, arrogantly, or ungratefully, it is rarely because they intend to hurt you. Rather, they believe their actions serve their own good, or at least solve their immediate problems even if those actions harm others. They are searching for happiness, security, or meaning, but in misguided ways. Imagine a blind person who walks in the wrong direction. Would you feel anger, or would you feel compassion and a desire to help? In the same way, difficult people are often trapped in their own ignorance about what leads to genuine well-being. They cannot see the larger picture or understand the real consequences of their actions. In many cases, they harm themselves before they ever harm you. When we adopt this perspective, anger begins to dissolve, and something stronger takes its place. Compassion. This leads us to the heart of this chapter, practicing compassion instead of anger. Marcus Aurelius reminds us of a simple truth we often forget. He wrote, "We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes. To harm one another is to act against our own nature. We are not isolated islands. We are parts of a larger living body, citizens of a shared human community. When one person acts poorly, it does not only affect them or you. It weakens the fabric of the whole. This may sound idealistic. How can we love someone who has just irritated us or spoken badly about us? This teaching is not an invitation to be passive or to allow others to mistreat you. It is a call to protect your inner peace. When you give in to anger, you harm yourself first by allowing another person's behavior to control your emotional state and drain your energy. To practice compassion is to look beyond unpleasant behavior and see a human being who is confused, incomplete, or struggling. Perhaps they have suffered. Perhaps they are afraid. When you see this clearly, anger loses its grip. You no longer feel compelled to defend a fragile ego or seek retaliation. Instead, you choose peace. So let us summarize the lessons of this chapter. First, prepare your mind. Accept that you will encounter difficult people regularly. Do not be shocked or surprised. This is part of life. Second, seek understanding. Remember that they act from ignorance, unable to distinguish good from evil. Their behavior is not a personal attack. Third, cultivate compassion. We are of the same human family. To harm others is to harm ourselves, and to be angry at others is to injure our own peace. This is how we remain calm and even extend goodwill toward difficult people, not because they deserve it, but because we deserve peace. Try applying these ideas in your daily life and observe how they transform the way you relate to the world around you. Chapter 4: The Meaninglessness of Fame. There is one struggle that almost all of us face at some point in our lives: the desire to be seen, the desire to be recognized. In this noisy world, personal worth is often measured by likes, shares, applause, and praise. Because of that, letting go of the need for recognition may be one of the hardest lessons to learn. And yet, it may also be one of the most freeing. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, offers us a powerful remedy for this obsession. He invites us to see clearly the meaninglessness of fame. To understand this, we must begin with a simple and sobering truth: time. We live as if we will last forever, as if the praise or criticism we receive today will echo endlessly into the future. But Marcus Aurelius saw through this illusion with remarkable clarity. Think about the compliments you once cherished. Think about the criticism that once disturbed your peace. Now look further ahead. In 100 years, will anyone remember you? Will they remember those who praised you or judged you? Most likely not. Marcus reminds us, the people you wish to please and you yourself will soon be dead. This is not pessimism. It is liberation. It is a reminder that everything external to us is temporary. Those who praise you today will one day disappear. Those who criticize you today will vanish as well. When both speaker and listener are gone, what lasting weight can their words truly hold? When I first reflected on this idea, it felt like cold water poured over my assumptions. But it also brought a surprising sense of relief. I began to see how much invisible pressure I had placed on myself, trying to earn approval that could never last. If our lives are brief, then praise and blame are even more fleeting. A compliment today may be forgotten tomorrow. A criticism today may lose its meaning within hours once the speaker moves on to something else. Our true worth does not live in applause or whispered opinions. It does not exist in follower counts, titles, or reputation. Marcus points out that even the most celebrated figures in history fade with time. Their fame thins, distorts, or disappears altogether. If this is true for those once called great, how fragile must our own reputation be? Imagine praise as a soft breeze. It passes through quickly, leaving no mark on the stone of who you are. Criticism is much the same. Dust in the air. It may irritate for a moment, but it always settles and disappears. Those who admire us will forget us. Those who resent us will also be forgotten. This is not depressing. It is simply honest. I too once tied my sense of worth to approval likes and praise from others. I spent energy trying to appear impressive and acceptable. The result was exhaustion, constant unease, and emptiness whenever recognition did not arrive. Reading Meditations made one thing clear. I had been chasing an illusion. External validation is unstable by nature. So if fame, praise, and criticism are all temporary, what should we care about instead? Marcus' answer is calm and precise. Focus only on right action. Focus on what is within your control. Kindness, integrity, courage, humility, justice, generosity. These inner qualities do not need an audience. They do not require applause. They matter because they are right, because they reflect the person you choose to be. When you act rightly, not to be praised, but because it aligns with your values, you discover a kind of peace that no compliment can give and no criticism can take away. The only approval you truly need is your own measured against the principles you have chosen to live by. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not allow your mind to be disturbed by praise or blame. Concern yourself only with doing what is right." This is not a call to withdraw from the world or stop caring about others. It is a call to free yourself from the chains of external expectation, to act with integrity, regardless of who is watching or judging. Take a slow breath. Feel the lightness that comes from releasing the burden called fame. Let the quiet peace of right action settle into you. When recognition no longer defines you, freedom begins. Chapter 5. Embracing the Flow. Amor Fati. Imagine a fire, not a small fragile flame, but a powerful fire burning fiercely in a fireplace or across dry grassland. What is the nature of fire? It consumes whatever is thrown into it. Throw in a rotten log, and it does not reject it. It transforms that decaying wood into glowing embers, into part of itself, making the fire burn stronger and brighter. Toss in a dry leaf, and it flickers for a moment, then rises again. Fire does not choose its fuel. It does not complain wishing for better wood or cleaner fuel. It simply burns. It turns everything into energy, light, and heat. Our lives work the same way. The fire within us, our spirit, our will, our resilience follows this same principle. Marcus Aurelius invites us to see everything that happens to us, whether joyful or devastating, as fuel for this inner flame. At first, this sounds almost unreasonable. Who would willingly embrace disappointment, pain, or failure? Our natural instinct is to resist, to complain, to wish things had gone differently. But Marcus challenges us to do something radical. Instead of resisting, instead of fighting what has already happened, which is always futile, turn it into fuel. A failure at work is not an ending. It is an opportunity to re-examine your approach, learn from mistakes, and burn brighter in the next attempt. A painful personal loss is not a reason to collapse completely. It is a reminder of life's impermanence, urging us to value what remains and seek deeper meaning. I have lived through periods where all I wanted was to escape hardship and regret my wrong decisions. I blamed myself. I wished I could reverse time. Yet, looking back, it was precisely those challenges I once resented that became the most powerful catalysts for growth. They forced me to reflect, to adapt, and to discover strengths I did not know I possessed. They were rotten logs that became glowing embers in the fire of my life. So how do we practice Amor Fati in daily life? It is the art of being at peace with the present, without demanding that reality be different. We often complain, if only I had more money, if only I were not sick, if only they had treated me better. Marcus Aurelius says, stop. Do not waste energy longing for a reality that does not exist and lies beyond your control. Instead, accept it, embrace it, and even love it. Not because it is pleasant, but because it is what is happening. It is the only reality you can act upon, learn from, and transform. This is not passive resignation. It is not saying I give up. It is an active choice, a powerful affirmation. It is saying yes to life with all its turns, surprises, and scars. When you accept and even love your fate, you free yourself from the burden of regret and longing. You stop fighting the universe. Instead, you cooperate with it. You use everything life throws at you to build a stronger, more resilient, and wiser self. Remember, Amor Fati does not mean you stop trying to change what you can change. It simply means fully accepting what lies beyond your control and using it as a foundation, as fuel for your growth. So here is the question for you. Do you dare to love your scars? Do you dare to turn disappointment into momentum? Let the fire within you consume everything, not to destroy, but to burn brighter than ever before. Chapter 6, Memento Mori. Remember that you will die. It may sound heavy at first, but do not worry. Marcus Aurelius does not ask us to live in fear of death. On the contrary, he invites us to use the awareness of death as a powerful tool to shape our lives and give meaning to every moment. In Stoic philosophy, Memento Mori is not a threat. It is a reminder filled with quiet strength. Remind yourself that you could leave life right now. This is a raw truth, sometimes unsettling, yet deeply liberating. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, perform each action and thought as if it were your last. Ask yourself, what would change if you were to leave life at this very moment? Not to create panic, but to bring clarity. Clarity about what truly matters. If you are reading a book, would you read it with full attention, curiosity, and gratitude? If you are speaking with someone you love, would you truly listen and be fully present in that conversation? The truth that we could leave at any time, even if we avoid thinking about it, becomes one of the sharpest guides for living. It makes life clearer, more vivid, and more urgent. It pushes us not merely to exist, but to live. Use the awareness of death to dissolve trivial worries and procrastination. If time is limited, what is truly worth your concern? We spend so much energy on small arguments online, invisible fears about what others think, and unrealistic expectations imposed by society. Imagine a future version of yourself lying in a hospital bed, looking back on your life. Would you still care about a cruel comment someone once wrote about you? Would you regret missing a sale or a minor opportunity? Most likely not. What would remain are the moments of love you gave, the experiences you lived, the lessons you learned, and the values you embodied. Death acts as a filter. It forces us to ask, if this were my last day, would I still hold on to resentment over a small mistake? Would I still delay saying I am sorry, thank you, or I love you? The answer is almost always no. And then there is procrastination. How familiar it is. We say tomorrow, later, someday, when I have more money, when I have more time. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that life is finite. Why postpone dreams, passions, or acts of kindness? We do not know whether tomorrow or later will ever come. Memento Mori becomes a gentle but firm call to action. Do it now. Live each day as if it were your last, not in fear, but in appreciation. This is not an invitation to reckless living or careless indulgence. It is an invitation to conscious presence, to fully inhabit each moment. Live as if each day were a gift, not a guarantee. Notice the beauty of a sunrise, the aroma of morning coffee, the laughter of a child, the gaze of someone you love, or simply the feel of a cool breeze on your skin. When you approach life with the awareness that today could be the last, you naturally seek peace in simple things. You release grudges more easily. You forgive more readily. You long for deeper connection with those around you. You begin to prioritize what nourishes your soul rather than what drains it. Memento Mori teaches us that because life is finite, we must live fully, without regret, with gratitude, with purpose. So Memento Mori is not a dark warning. It is a powerful reminder, a measure by which we strip away the trivial, overcome procrastination, and cherish each day as something precious. Let death not be something we fear, but a wise teacher guiding us toward a meaningful, complete, and beautiful life. Because death is not the end of life. It is the measure of its value. Chapter 7. The Power of Focusing on the Present Moment. Have you ever felt trapped between the waves of the past and the future? Regrets about what has already happened? Sorrow over old choices? Or the quiet dread of what might be coming next? The bleak scenarios we rehearse in our minds. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, saw a simple but piercing truth. None of that is real in the present moment. He wrote something remarkably direct. The past is dead. It no longer exists. You cannot touch it. You cannot change it. It is only memory, a shadow that can affect you only if you allow it to. It has finished its part and dissolved. Clinging to it or suffering over it is like trying to hold sand that keeps slipping through your fingers. And the future, as Marcus reminds us, it has not arrived. The future is a mirage, a field of possibilities hidden behind fog. Worrying about it is like fighting an enemy who has not even stepped onto the battlefield. You spend your energy, your attention, and your precious time on something that may never happen or may happen in a completely different way. So what do we truly have? Marcus gives the only honest answer. We possess only the present moment. Only this moment right now belongs to you. Only this moment is real. Only here can you act. Only here can you live. The present is a small, steady island between the vast oceans of yesterday and tomorrow, and your strength lives here and only here. But how do we actually stay here? How do we live in the moment instead of being dragged around by ghosts and mirages? This is where we need a practice, a deliberate inner skill, the skill of separating the mind from useless worry, not denial, not emotional numbness, but a conscious decision to place your attention where your power is. Imagine your mind as a garden regret, and worry are weeds that grow fast and steal the soil of its nourishment. This practice is the gentle but firm act of pulling those weeds so the life you want can grow. When an anxious thought about the past or future appears, ask yourself, is this happening right now? Can I do anything about it right now? If the answer is no, then set it down. Notice it, but do not grip it. Take a slow breath and bring your attention back to what is in front of you. And here is where philosophy becomes action. Marcus describes a way of working that feels unmistakably Roman precise, serious, and humane when the mind is cleared of unnecessary noise. What remains is the work of this moment, not frantic effort, not empty busyness, but a steady devotion to doing what is yours to do. Be precise, whatever you are doing, whether it is a major project or a small task like making tea, writing a message, or planning your day. Do it with full attention to detail. Do not rush. Do not do it halfway. Marcus understood that an empire is built from the care placed into each decision, each brick, each ordinary duty. Be serious. Meet what is in front of you with responsibility, not excuses, not blame, not avoidance. If a task is yours, Then face it with self-respect and a steady will. You are part of something larger, and your work matters. Honor it by doing it well. And be humane. This is what separates mere labor from meaningful creation. The final purpose of your work is not only personal gain. It is contribution, fairness, and respect for the people. Your life touches. A great Roman built roads and laws not to display power but to serve a whole community. So as you work with precision and seriousness, place it in a wider frame. How does what I do help others? How does it move the world one step closer to what is right? How can I act with kindness even while I stay firm? It sounds simple, but living this way day after day takes practice. Even as I write these words, I am still learning when I write, when I edit, when I listen to someone. I try to carry that same posture care in each sentence. Integrity in the intention, humanity in the purpose. The power of the present moment is not escape from the world. It is the ability to enter it fully, to shape it from the inside out. That is where calm grows. That is where effectiveness returns. That is where meaning becomes real. So begin now. What is right in front of you? A small task, a conversation, or simply your next breath. Do it with all the precision, seriousness, and humanity you can offer. Chapter 8. Reason leads emotion. It sounds a little dry at first. Reason leads emotion. But in truth, this is one of the most practical foundations for living with peace and purpose. Have you ever been swept into an emotional current, anger, anxiety, irritation, and later looked back, wishing you had responded differently? Of course you have. We all have. The aim of this chapter is simple and demanding. A reminder Marcus Aurelius repeats in many forms. Do not let impulsive emotion drive your behavior. You are the captain of your life, and reason is the rudder, not the sudden waves of feeling. So how do we do it in real life? When the message arrives, the comment lands, the pressure hits, and the body reacts before the mind can catch up. Marcus offers 3 anchors. First, learn to separate the first impression from the consent of reason. This is a core Stoic idea, and Marcus practices it with remarkable discipline. Think about how quickly a feeling can rise inside you. You read an email, you hear a sentence, you catch a look, and instantly your chest tightens, your thoughts speed up, your mood shifts. That first jolt is the first impression. Marcus teaches that the first impression is only a signal. It is not final truth. It is raw information, unprocessed. Your power begins when you refuse to approve it too quickly. You can choose not to give it your agreement. Imagine watching a horror movie. The first jump scare makes you flinch. That is the first impression. But then your mind catches up and says, "It is only a movie," and your body settles. The same principle applies when something unpleasant happens in daily life. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A colleague says something that feels insulting. The first impression is anger. But before you let that anger steer your mouth, your hands, your choices, pause. Marcus would have you ask, is this truly what is happening? Or is this the story I am adding to it? Does my reason actually agree that this moment requires rage? When you hold back your consent, you create a precious space between stimulus and response. Inside that space is choice, and inside choice is real freedom. Second, master anger, because anger harms you more than the event that provoked it. Of all impulsive emotions, anger is the most seductive because it feels powerful. Yet Marcus, a man who held supreme authority, writes again and again about how dangerous anger is, not only morally, but practically. Anger blinds reason. It makes you speak words you cannot retrieve and take actions you cannot undo. It drains your health, your energy, and your inner calm. You may feel a moment of release when you vent it, but what is the cost? How many relationships have cracked? How many opportunities have vanished because of a single, uncontrolled minute? When anger starts to rise, Marcus would advise you to breathe, step back, and remember the price. Ask yourself, is this worth trading away my inner peace? Will this solve anything, or will it poison everything further? Controlling anger does not mean burying it and pretending it is not there. It means understanding it, recognizing what it does to you, and choosing a wiser response. This is a skill you sharpen over time, and every time you succeed, even once, you strengthen the authority of reason within you. Third, train yourself to see things with ruthless objectivity. To truly lead your emotions, you need the ability to look at events as they are, without immediately coding them in judgment. Marcus wanted to strip reality down to its bare facts, because when you remove the extra story, you remove much of the suffering. Try thinking of it this way. A flower is a flower. Rain is water. An error is an error. An unkind remark is a remark, not automatically a personal attack aimed at your worth. When you see things plainly, you take away their power to hijack your feelings. If someone says something that upsets you, instead of instantly labeling them rude or assuming they intended to hurt you, practice a colder description first. A person made a certain statement. It sounds almost mechanical, even inhuman, but that is not the final goal. The goal is to peel away the first layer of emotion and interpretation so that reason has room to work. Once reason has space, you can decide what the moment truly calls for. This kind of objectivity takes practice, like building muscle. Each day, pick small moments and try to describe them in simple facts before reacting. Over time, you will notice that external events shake you less, and your inner steadiness becomes harder to steal. So in this chapter, Marcus gives us 3 pillars for letting reason lead emotion. First, distinguish the first impression from the consent of reason, and you gain space to choose. Second, remember that anger damages you more than it damages anyone else, and learn to master it rather than serve it. Third, practice seeing things as they are, with clear objectivity, so they lose the power to rule your inner world. This is not a switch you flip on and off. It is a long discipline of awareness and practice. Every day gives you another chance. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you choose calm over impulse, you strengthen the rule of reason and move closer to the person you want to be. Let reason be the leader, not impulsive emotion. Hold that power and use it well. Chapter 9. The Interconnection of All Things. Sympatheia. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to practice a mental exercise known as the view from above. He invites us to imagine ourselves rising higher and higher, lifting away from our city, our country, and eventually from the earth itself. As you look down from that height, what do you see? Vast mountains shrink into faint wrinkles on the surface of the planet. Endless oceans become simple strokes of blue, and human beings, along with the busy cities we once believed to be the center of our world, fade into tiny, almost invisible dots. Whenever I practice this exercise, something remarkable happens. My worries, my personal frustrations, the small conflicts of daily life suddenly feel very small. It is like stepping back from a canvas you have been staring at too closely and realizing that what seemed overwhelming was only a single brushstroke in a much larger masterpiece. Marcus wanted us to recognize how small we are within the immensity of the universe, not as a way of diminishing our worth, but as a form of liberation. When we loosen our grip on the ego, on the belief that everything revolves around us, we begin to see ourselves as part of something far greater. From this perspective, death, loss, and personal failure become easier to accept. Time and nature soften their weight when viewed through the lens of the whole. From this wide cosmic view, Marcus leads us to a truth that is closer to home, yet just as profound: the awareness of community. One of his most powerful lines captures it perfectly. What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee. Think about it. Can a single bee survive on its own, no matter how hard-working it may be? It cannot. The bee needs the hive for shelter, for food, for protection, for life itself. And the hive depends on each individual bee to function. If a bee acts only for itself, becoming lazy or destructive, it weakens the hive, and in doing so, destroys its own chance of survival. Marcus is reminding us that we are social beings by nature. We are not meant to live in isolation. Our happiness and growth are deeply tied to the well-being of the communities we belong to. When we live only for ourselves, when we fixate solely on personal gain, we move against our own nature. And that path leads not to fulfillment, but to loneliness and dissatisfaction. Look around you. In families, in workplaces, in entire nations, when individuals contribute and act for the common good, the whole becomes stronger and each person benefits. When everyone pulls in their own direction, the system collapses. It really is that simple. For Marcus Aurelius, living for the common good is not merely practical advice. It is the very essence of what it means to be human. We are born with reason, and that reason guides us toward cooperation, toward care, toward mutual support. When you help another person, when you contribute to something larger than yourself, have you noticed the quiet satisfaction that follows? A sense of meaning that money or recognition can never fully provide? That feeling is not accidental. It is your nature responding. It is the universe reminding you that you are a vital part of the great chain of Sympatheia. Marcus believed that selfish behavior is fundamentally unnatural. It is like a tree trying to grow its roots into the sky, or a fish attempting to live on land. It cannot thrive. We are designed to connect, to share, to support one another. That is why acts of kindness and quiet service bring such deep peace. They align us with who we truly are. Imagine a world where people consistently strive to do what is best for one another. It would not be perfect, but it would be far better than the one we know now. And each of us, through the smallest actions, has the power to help shape that world. Sympatheia is not an abstract idea. It is a reminder that we are not isolated islands. Through the view from above, we release unnecessary worry by recognizing our smallness. Through the image of the hive and the bee, we understand that personal good and collective good are inseparable. And through living for the common good, we express the deepest truth of our humanity. Marcus Aurelius invites us to live with this awareness of connection. When you look at another person, see not a stranger, but a part of yourself. When you do good for someone else, you do good for yourself and for the universe as a whole. We are all part of this vast current, and every action we take sends ripples outward. The question is simple. What kind of ripples do you want to create? Sit with that question, and I believe you will find your life growing calmer, richer, and more meaningful. Chapter 10. Change is the nature of the universe. Marcus Aurelius, though burdened with the responsibilities of an emperor, possessed a remarkably observant and sensitive mind. He did not see only glittering palaces or brutal battlefields. He noticed the steady flow of the Tiber River, the wheat fields that grew green and full before turning golden, the harsh winters that inevitably gave way to gentle spring. In watching the world, he came to understand a fundamental truth. Everything is in the process of becoming something else. Think about a river for a moment. The water you see now will not be the same water a second from now. It never stops moving. Or consider a tree. From a tiny seed it grows, sprouts leaves, flourishes, then yellows, sheds, and waits for another cycle to begin. Even mountains, which seem eternal, are slowly shaped and worn down by wind, rain, and time. Marcus reminds us that change is not an exception to the order of things. It is the rule. Nothing stands still. Every moment is a transition. If this is how the universe works, why do we so often resist it in our own lives? We cling to possessions, to conditions, to the present as we wish it to remain. The new phone you just bought will not stay new forever. It will age, break, or be replaced. The home you live in, the clothes you love, even youth, beauty, and physical strength all follow the same path. They appear, grow, reach a peak, and slowly fade away. Marcus understood long ago that trying to hold tightly to what is destined to change only multiplies suffering. When we grip what is impermanent, we bind ourselves to its inevitable loss. It is like trying to hold water in your palm. The harder you squeeze, the faster it escapes. Attachment becomes the source of anxiety, frustration, and disappointment when life refuses to remain as we want it to be. Here lies one of Marcus Aurelius' deepest and most difficult lessons. We must learn to see change, including aging and loss, as natural rather than tragic. Fear of growing older, fear of weakening, fear of separation from what we love is deeply human. Marcus does not deny that pain. Instead, he invites us to see these experiences through a wider lens. To him, aging and loss are not punishments, nor signs of failure. They are expressions of the same natural order that causes leaves to fall so new buds may form, mountains to erode so valleys may exist, rivers to flow so land may be nourished. Every ending makes room for a beginning, even when we cannot yet see what that beginning will be. Accepting impermanence, including our own, is not surrender or indifference. It is wisdom. It allows us to meet reality with steadiness, to find meaning even in difficult moments. When we understand that the old must pass for the new to arrive, fear loosens its grip. We become more capable of living fully in the present, instead of bracing ourselves against the future. Marcus Aurelius does not ask us to become cold or detached observers of life. He asks us to watch carefully, to reflect deeply, and to recognize that everything is moving, changing, unfolding. When we release unnecessary attachment to what cannot last, we gain something far more valuable. Freedom, so welcome change as a companion rather than an enemy. Let it walk beside you as part of the journey, not something to fight against. Because only when we accept impermanence can we truly live with presence, appreciate what is here now, and meet what is coming with calm and dignity. Chapter 11. The discipline of perception. Modern life feels like an endless current of information. Our minds are constantly bombarded by news, social media, work, relationships, and even our own wandering thoughts. At times, it feels as if the mind has become a cluttered room, filled with objects all demanding attention at once. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, saw this problem long before our age and offered a powerful solution: the discipline of clearing the mind of useless thoughts. It sounds simple, but it requires strength and self-command. Marcus challenged himself with an exercise that serves as a sharp test of mental clarity. He wrote that if someone were to ask you what you are thinking, you should be able to answer immediately without embarrassment. Pause and reflect on that. If someone suddenly asked you right now, what is on your mind? Could you answer honestly and clearly, without hesitation or shame? Many of us carry thoughts we would rather hide, small judgments about others, anxious worries about the future, or streams of idle thinking that lead nowhere. This exercise is not about being transparent with others, but about being completely honest with yourself. It forces you to observe the flow of your thoughts and to recognize what truly occupies your inner world. When a thought feels embarrassing or empty, when spoken aloud, it reveals its nature instantly. This is how clarity begins. A mind that is unclear in thought often becomes unclear in speech and action. Marcus then urges us to remove what he considered the true mental waste, envy, suspicion, and pointless imagination. Think of the mind as a garden. If you want it to flourish, you must remove weeds. Envy slowly poisons the one who holds it. When you envy another, you do not harm them, you harm yourself. Suspicion when rooted in insecurity rather than reason, chains the mind and drains the will to act. And pointless imagination, the endless stream of what-ifs and imagined futures, steals more energy than any external burden ever could. It pulls attention away from the present, where action and meaning actually exist. Marcus wanted us grounded in reality, focused on what is real and useful, rather than lost in mental fiction. A simple question helps reveal this. Does this thought lead to a constructive action, or is it merely a distraction? Once the mental clutter is removed, Marcus teaches how to maintain inner order. He advises keeping the mind pure, simple, and benevolent. A pure mind does not hide resentment, jealousy, or dark motives. It is clear, honest, and aligned with good intention. A simple mind is not naive, but uncluttered. It does not drown itself in unnecessary complexity or endless worry. It focuses on what matters and lets the rest fall away. A benevolent mind carries kindness not only toward others, but toward itself. It does not live in harsh judgment or quiet hostility. It understands that peace begins inside and spreads outward. This discipline of perception is not easy. It requires constant awareness, a firm inner gatekeeper who decides which thoughts may enter and which must be turned away. Just as a house must be cleaned regularly to remain livable, the mind must be tended to remain clear. But the reward is profound. Inner calm clarity of thought and a lighter spirit no longer weighed down by envy, suspicion, or mental noise. With a disciplined mind, we live with greater purpose, greater presence, and deeper peace. Begin today. Try the exercise Marcus proposed. If someone asked you what you are thinking, could you answer without hesitation? Observe gently, but honestly. Remove the weeds and tend your inner garden with purity, simplicity, and kindness. Chapter 12. Retreat. Into the self. Have you ever felt a deep longing to escape the weight of everyday life? To imagine yourself immersed in clear blue water, walking along endless white beaches, or breathing clean air on a mountain peak while watching clouds drift by? I am sure you have. It is a natural human response to pressure. We believe that if we could just go somewhere far away and beautiful, everything would feel better. Marcus Aurelius, however, held a view that may sound harsh at first, yet reveals a profound truth. He openly criticized the habit of seeking refuge in the sea or the mountains as a way of running away. To him, fleeing to distant places was like taking a painkiller. It eases discomfort for a moment, but never cures the illness itself. You may leave behind your job, your meetings, even toxic relationships in the city. But when you arrive at the most beautiful beach or the highest mountain, what still travels with you? Your mind, your thoughts, your worries, your habits of perception. And when the vacation ends, you return to the same life, often carrying disappointment as well, because the peace you hoped to find was never truly there. So where is the true place of rest? Where is the refuge that does not fade? Marcus Aurelius gives a clear answer. He writes that a person can find no retreat more peaceful and more quiet than within the soul itself. Imagine this. Each of us carries a private inner room, a strong inner fortress, untouched by external storms, unaffected by the noise of the world. It is a place you can enter at any time with a single turn of attention. There are no tickets to buy, no destinations to reach, no seasons to wait for. It is always available. It has always been there. And here is the most powerful part. You can renew yourself whenever you return inward. You do not need to wait for a holiday, a weekend, or even the end of the day. In the middle of a tense meeting, under crushing deadlines, or while surrounded by unsettling news, you can still take this inner journey. This kind of renewal is simple. It may be nothing more than a slow and deliberate breath, feeling your heartbeat steady. It is the act of setting aside mental noise and reconnecting with what truly matters to you. It is the moment when you ask yourself, what is essential right now? Which principles you want to live by, and what the real nature of the problem is beneath emotional reactions. When you retreat into the self, you recalibrate your inner center. You restore balance. You regain calm and clarity. This is not an escape from reality. It is a way of meeting reality from a stronger position, supported by self-command and inner strength. Marcus Aurelius believed that true power did not lie in external authority or vast empires, but in mastery of the mind and the tranquility found within. He lived in a world filled with war, disease, and political intrigue. Yet he discovered a refuge that could not be shaken. And so can you. True peace is not found in distant places, but in your ability to return to yourself. Practice this daily, even for a few minutes. The change may surprise you, because your true home has always been here. We have journeyed together deep into the inner world of Marcus Aurelius, an emperor whose greatness did not come only from power, but from the depth of his philosophy of life. A world that, even after nearly 2,000 years, still speaks directly to our hearts. Every time I return to meditations, I feel as if I discover a new missing piece within myself. It is not merely a book. It is a companion, a mirror that reflects both the chaos and the quiet within me. And now, I would truly love to hear from you. After everything we have explored together, after sitting with the thoughts of Marcus, which idea, which sentence, which piece of wisdom touched you the most today? Was it the reminder to control your reactions when things do not go your way? The acceptance of death as a natural part of life? Or the call to live fully in each present moment? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I am genuinely curious to know what stayed with you. This is not just an answer to a question. It is a moment of self-reflection, a pause to notice what resonated most deeply within you. For me, each return to Marcus brings a different line to the surface, as if he is whispering exactly what I need to hear at that moment. Feel free to share not only the quote, but how it made you feel. If you found value in these reflections, if you sensed a connection with Stoic philosophy, and if you wish to continue the journey toward becoming a true Stoic, then know that this is only the beginning. Marcus Aurelius is a powerful guide, but the Stoic path extends far beyond him, with other great teachers waiting to be explored. Think of Seneca, whose letters offer deeply practical wisdom on facing pain, loss, and even wealth with calm dignity. Or Epictetus, who taught us about inner freedom that can never be taken away, reminding us that the only thing truly under our control is our attitude and our response. Their insights and methods will greatly enrich and deepen our understanding of Stoicism. So do not forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss future videos, where we will continue to explore their teachings together. A like and a share will also help these timeless lessons reach more people who may need them. And finally, the most important message I want to leave you with today, after all these beautiful ideas and reflections, is this. Do not merely read Marcus Aurelius. Do not only reflect on his words. Live as a philosopher today. Each day, try to apply just one small principle. Accept something you cannot change with calm. Smile at a minor annoyance that once would have made you angry. Or simply take a deep breath and remember that you always have the power to choose your response, rather than being carried away by emotion. Stoicism is not a dry academic subject. It is not reserved for scholars or emperors. It is a way of life, an art of living, a practical set of tools to face daily challenges and find inner peace. It is an ongoing journey toward becoming a better version of yourself, calmer, stronger, and more understanding. You do not need to be a Roman emperor to practice it. You only need to be yourself, here and now, making small but meaningful choices each day. Thank you for walking with me through this part of the journey. I truly believe that the Stoic path is one of the most worthwhile adventures a person can take. Begin your journey, and I will see you in the next video.